Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. We're starting these off this week with Koboo the Tree Spirit. You play as our lovely tree spirit here, who's trying to defend their forest from industrialists coming in and destroying it. And we're going to do a whole lot of murdering to do so. This is an action roguelike, where your main kind of element here is that every enemy is kind of a larger-than-life figure, only even larger-than-life figures when it comes to the bosses. Your job is to kill them all and move from area to area. You'll acquire different weapons, sub-weapons, and of course buffs over the course of the run, with each weapon having kind of different rules for how to maximize damage. One may be about getting like the perfect strike length, others may be hitting weak points, etc, etc. After each run, you'll be able to upgrade your kind of home base to unlock new weapons, perks, relics, and more to aid you. Now, when we first played this one, it used to be that you only had kind of one hit point, and once you take it, you are dead. But with the game release, they did update it to now allow you to have health. So you'll be able to acquire health points, you'll be able to change your skills, and it's a very solid game. Now, with of course having limited health and the enemy patterns, it still can be a bit tricky in a few spots. It's not as bad when you're fighting like one enemy at a time, but during the encounter there's multiple ones at the same time, you can have that situation where like all the patterns kind of coalesce at once, and it becomes almost near impossible to get in or avoid an oncoming hit. And even though you do have health now, it can still be tricky to get it back or recover if you take too much damage during a fight. With that said, I think this is a very solid game. If you are an action roguelike fan looking for another and challenging take to check out, then I highly recommend you look at this one. We go from one roguelike to the next with Rack and Slay, a game that combines the unpredictability of a roguelike with the unpredictability of pool. Your mission is to clear the board of enemy threats using your cue ball. However, you only have so many turns before all balls that are still on the field will hurt you, and you obviously don't want to drain in the process as well. After each level, you'll be able to choose from different perks as well as upgrading your stats, allowing you to hit the ball harder, get more accuracy with it, and of course trying to make yourself a little bit better at pool along the way. There are multiple ascension modes / progressive difficulties. You'll be able to unlock new perks and challenges along the way. It's a very engaging and interesting take on the roguelike formula. Now, while you do get kind of like the aim assist for your ball, it can only last so far, so you will have to get good at kind of reading the board and reading how much strength to give to something, lest you launch yourself into a pit along with the enemies. This is a very solid concept for a roguelike, and if you're a fan of pool or rogueliking and looking for a great combination of the two, then definitely give this one a check. And now we go to Witching Stone. This footage is taken from the demo, but the game was launched in 2024. This is a kind of puzzle matching deck building roguelike, where your spells require you to match different combinations of gems in order to trigger them. You have X amount of mana per turn, and you're going to have to use all of it if you want to deal with the different enemies. Now what the game does very interestingly is that you'll acquire of course different artifacts that can aid you, but you'll also get badges that can be attached to your spells that will give it an additional property, sometimes a side grade, upgrade, or any other kind of grade. You'll of course get additional spells that you'll add to your spell book, and you'll need to power yourself up if you have any chance of getting strong enough to beat the boss of each area and then move on to the next. It's a very charming take on kind of the puzzle / deck building formula, and while we only had a chance to play the demo, it does look like a very solid take if you are a fan of kind of again like the puzzle line drawing style. So if you are in the mood to match some gems and fight some baddies, then I would give this one a play. We have our first non-roguelike of this week's showcase with Lorn's Lure, and right off the bat, if you are someone who's afraid of heights or experiences vertigo, this is not going to be the game for you. This is a 3D physics-driven kind of exploration climber with some jumping here and there. You play as a robot who's exploring a massive underground facility, and using a pair of climbing hooks, you are going to have to try and figure out what is happening down here and not fall many times to your death. The main element of this one is that you are exploring massive environments, trying to figure out where you're supposed to be going. Certain surfaces and textures you are able to kind of use your climbing hooks to attach to. Other times you'll just need to kind of jump and maneuver your way around. You have a kind of stamina/grip meter, so if it runs out, you are going to fall. And you can only fall from so high up before it counts as a lethal fall and you'll be sent back to the previous checkpoint. There are bonus things you'll cover in each stage, but the main thing about this game is that this is exploration-based puzzle solving. Where am I supposed to go? How do I get from point A to point B and that kind of thing? Now, because this is physics-driven, it also means that you have to worry about your momentum and velocity as you are moving around. If you go to jump, you can sometimes bounce off a surface and then of course go careening into the pit. It's a very challenging take on the formula. If you're someone who likes very movement tech-centric 3D platforming, this is not going to be that game. It's again more about exploring the space and figuring out how to get around it rather than doing a lot of varieties of jumping, wall tech, etc, etc. So while this one may not be for everyone, if you're in a mood for some climbing, then I would give this one a try, and again, don't look down. We now go to Caution Ahead. This is chapter 1 of a planned 3-part series. What we have is a kind of classic take on the first-person survival horror. You are trapped in a cabin by someone who is possibly abducting a child, and you will have to figure out your way out, solve puzzles, and try not to get killed in the process. Each level kind of changes things up in different ways. So you'll have one level that will involve you just kind of doing the hide-and-seek design around the enemy, another one may have you exploring an area trying to solve puzzles, and it kind of changes beat by beat. Now, the enemy patterns are kept pretty basic. You'll have the enemy just kind of going around specific set patrols. If they hear you, they will of course come running. And there are a few mini games here and there. From what I played of this one, I didn't see anything again that would kind of stand out for this formula, but it's still a very solid take on this again, the more hide-and-seek style of survival horror. So if you're in the mood for a little bit of some hide-and-seek horror, I would give this one a try. I am interested to see if they'll change things up in parts 2 and 3. And for the last game of this week's showcase, it's a little known one known as Satisfactory. The game was finally released after years of early access in 2024. And what we have here is probably the most realized take on the 3D automation design side of things. You are on a deserted alien world, and in order to complete your job, you are going to have to, well, harvest, mine, and refine a whole mess of goods, and build your production assembly up, and up. The game features multiplayer, which we did have a chance to do this multiplayer-wise, but that is not a part of this footage. So if you are familiar at all with the automation design, then Satisfactory should be very familiar to you. You will need to find permanent resources or large amounts of resources that you can gather, and then ship those resources all around to refine, produce, and set them up where you need them to be. Like with Factorio, there is a progression structure to how the story develops. You have different tiers that will require ever-increasingly amounts of goods. Once you complete them, you will unlock the next tier, which will then unlock additional buildings, resources, and goods that you can produce. And you'll just keep going up and up in that respect. Now, the 3D does make this a little bit more of an interesting challenge in two distinct areas. Power can be a bit cumbersome to use, at least at the start. You see, you have a limited number of connectors from your respective power generators. So you have to set a power line to kind of daisy chain power between them, but there's only so many slots you can do. It's not a case where you set down a power supply or a power cord and it connects to all nearby goods. Also, working in 3D makes it a little bit more frustrating in terms of setting up objects. This is not like the other games where you have the isometric or overhead view that you can then use to set up things where you need them. Since it's all done in first person, it can be a bit frustrating to try and set up just where you want it, but the model is not going where you need it to be, and it can become a bit of a headache, especially when you start having massive factories going all at once. There is combat as well, but again, it should be kept relatively light for those of you who are familiar with this kind of gameplay. All in all, Satisfactory turned out, well, very successfully. If you are a fan of automation design, this is an easy recommendation. But if you're not a fan of the genre, or you're looking for a more streamlined take of it, this one may be a little bit too big and cumbersome in that respect. With that said, that's going to do it for this week's showcase. You'll find links to all the games down below. As always, you want me to go to your game for a future stream and piece, please get in touch. Let me know what you thought about these games as well, and I will see everyone for our next showcase stream and for more content here on the channel. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.